Don't know if I'll get any views off of this, but oh well. I want to talk about where WWE has gone straight to hell. Let's discuss. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Beasley here. I hope you all are staying cool, calm, and collected out there. So we're talking about something completely different today, which is going to be the topic of wrestling, more so women's wrestling. So you guys, I know I am not a wrestling channel, but this is something that I am so passionate about. Like, I've always been a wrestling fan. I've been watching since 2003. More so a Divas fan versus an actual women's wrestling fan. We're going to get into that, but I will say that overall, I truly love wrestling. However, you guys, if you are seeing something that you've watched for 20 or so years literally die a slow death in front of you, I just have to express my pure disgust and my pure angst that I have with this product. Y'all, right off the rip, just gotta keep it real. Today's product sucks. It sucks. It sucks. I hate it. I hate it. It sucks. There's been a lot of highs and lows and ups and downs with WWE's product, you guys, but I can guarantee you and confidently say, as somebody who's watched this product for over 20 years, this is literally the worst it has ever been. Now, you guys, I'm gonna try my hardest to stay on topic with my notes because this is something that I'm passionate about, and I can go on a ramble, a spiral, you name it with the WWE, because it's a lot of layers to why this product sucks today. And I want to keep it mainly focused on the women because they're the reason I started watching wrestling as a whole. Two, there's not a lot of YouTube channels mainly talking about women's wrestling, except for like Ring the Bell and Wrestling in Color podcast. Shout out to you two, love y'all. And i.e., there's not a lot of wrestling product from the point of view of a gay man that loves the product and loves women's wrestling. So therefore, I want to go ahead and put this video out and discuss my sheer disgust with the direction of this product. So this is going to be a long video today because I have a lot to say. So grab yourselves a libation and a snack because the WWE's product is whack. So like I said, I've been watching wrestling since 2003. I had the opportunity to watch it beforehand because at the time my older brother was a big fan of wrestling back in the days of like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold. Basically back in the days of the early days of the Attitude Era. That's when my older brother was a big fan, but I thought the product was absolutely stupid, juvenile, and ridiculous. Yes, me at the age of like 5 or 6, I was just like, this is some bullshit. So I wrote off the product and didn't watch it up until I got into middle school. I was transitioning from elementary school to middle school, and that's when I started watching. It was during the summer of 2003, and I'll never forget the first segment I watched was a catfight between Dawn Marie and Jackie Gator at ringside. And when I saw that, you guys, I was just like, huh. What is this? See, when it comes to the women back then in wrestling, when I first started watching it because of my older brother during the Attitude Era, I didn't know there were actual women in wrestling outside of Chyna. Like, I thought Chyna was an exception to the rule because, you know, she was big, buff, and tough, and she was also a megastar. It was hard to not know who Chyna was. Like, she was literally the real-life embodiment of Xena Warrior Princess. But in 2003, when I saw that match, I was like, oh, there's other women in the company? And you guys, I'll never forget, like, I was watching off and on throughout 2003 after watching that segment, keeping up with it, and I loved just how beautiful. Like, the Divas Division at that time was like a beautiful bitch fest, like, based off of what I saw on SmackDown, because I didn't know what Raw was, but I would watch SmackDown, and I was just like, this is beautiful. These women are glamorous and sexy, and they catfight. Like, I just loved it. Now, I was watching here and there back then, but you guys, I'll never forget, I was completely locked in the minute Melina debuted and did the splits into the ring. When she did that, you guys, I was just like, oh, this is the product for me. Now, y'all, when I tell you guys I love the Divas, I love the Divas Division. Like, I figured out, especially during this current era, that I'm more of a Divas fan over a actual women's wrestling fan. And I just hate the fact that people shit on the Divas Division. I mean, people really think that the Divas Division was all about bra and panties matches, just being a manager valet, being eye candy, being a backstage interviewer, minimal wrestling. Like, people look at that and think that the Divas Division was absolutely ridiculous, because we gotta keep it real. At times, the Divas Division was absolutely ridiculous.
There is a statue here of my legs and my butt, and it's really interesting to see the way that people are touching it and taking pictures of it, knowing that that's an exact replica of my legs and my butt.
Your boobs really are quite enormous.
Although there's a few of you ladies out there I'd really like to choke out, it's not me, so you can clean the crap from your little lingerie panties in just a second.
China, you don't understand. I don't wear underwear.
It looks like you've been sucking on something sour because those lips look like a fish. And Carmella, you're a gutter slut. You guys, I'm gonna come down on all of you.
But the divas that were deemed as ridiculous still were iconic and fun to watch. I lit up every single time the divas were on the screen. But even though there were divas that were deemed as ridiculous, and don't get me wrong, there were a lot of ridiculous moments throughout the Divas Division era, but I will say that the Divas Division had balance. Like, of course we had girls like Terry, the Cat, who else? BB, Sunny, Miss Elizabeth, Crystal, Queen Charmel. We had girls that were there, that were eye candy, but we also had the Trish Stratuses, the Litas, the Beth Phoenixes. And don't even let me forget about the Jacquelines, the Jazzes, the Molly Hollies. Like, there were girls that were there to also wrestle and get in at the ring at the same time. Hell, even later on in the Divas Division, we had the girls that could do both. They were smart, sexy, and powerful. Like, for example, the Natties, Natalya Neihart, who is still there to this day. Layla, who I love Layla. Ugh, she's like the first diva that followed me back on Instagram. Love you, boo. And then the Michelle McCools and the Trish Stratuses, you name it. Like, these girls were all iconic, and I was excited every single time they were on my screen, because majority of all of them were stars in their own right. And also with the Divas Division, they were stars because they were put in memorable storylines and memorable segments and moments. Like, we got to see the characters develop their own lore and depth in real time, week in and week out. Like, if you missed a Raw or SmackDown, you missed something. Now, like I said, the Ruthless Aggression era in wrestling is my favorite era. I absolutely loved it, especially SmackDown. For a long time, I watched SmackDown. I didn't even know that Raw existed. I watched Raw for the first time, I think, like in 2005, and that was the best time to watch it, because that's when Mickie James debuted, and she entered the most iconic women's storyline in history in wrestling when she went against Trish Stratus. That, in my opinion, to this day, has not been topped. That storyline has not been topped in any wrestling promotion, any storyline, any angle to this day. That is the best women's wrestling storyline. But y'all, with any era in wrestling, it's always going to have its peaks and its valleys. And in my opinion, the lowest point in the Divas Division started around 2011. Real talk, wrestling as a whole was horrible in 2011. But for the Divas Division, it was during the HD era. And there were still women that were there that were iconic that I loved to see, especially when they had people like Maurice debut and Eve Torres and all of them. Iconic women. So there was still something for me to hold on to in that era. But y'all, the lowest point for me came, I think this was like in 2012, 2013, when Beth Phoenix, who was the Divas champion at the time, there was like a segment where two prominent male wrestlers were like being scorned in the middle of the ring because I guess they went on a rampage backstage or something like that. But they had the whole entire Divas Division out there, and they had Beth Phoenix speaking for the Divas Division. And I will never forget where her strong buff ass got on that mic, and she was just like, well, we're just girls. Like, we're just girls. What do you expect us to do? We can't handle all this chaos. And when I saw that, you guys, I was just like, ugh. But a few years after that, you guys, around 2015, things were absolute shit. And they were shit because these girls were getting like 2-minute matches, no storylines, no nothing. Like, it was just keep the ball rolling. Like, you would literally see those girls like run to the ring and have a 2-minute match and run back out. Like, they were literally the piss break match, and it was absolute bullshit because those girls were capable of so much more. Fast forward to the Women's Revolution, I'll never forget. It all started first when AJ Lee, who y'all love, AJ Lee, when she called out Stephanie McMahon on Twitter for her bullshit and the lack of support of the Divas Division. And then right after that, we had a tag match with Nikki Bella and Brie Bella against Emma and Paige, and it was literally a 2-second match, and it caused a rampage. Baby, us Diva fans were lighting the fuck up out of the WWE on their social media. Like, we were not taking a no for an answer. Give Divas a chance. Y'all need to do something, and y'all need to do something fast. And to Vince McMahon's credit, it temporarily lit a matchup under his ass, and therefore the women were starting to get more time after that. And then fast forward to like late 2015 or early 2016, that's when the Women's Revolution was in full gear. They had the debut of the 4 horsewomen that were down in NXT, which is their developmental territory. And that was the likes of Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. Y'all, I'll never forget, because that year they had the WrestleMania where they had the last Divas match ever, which was like a 10 Diva tag match. It was like Team Total Divas versus Team Bad and Blonde. And then later on that night, they had a triple threat match for the new women's title, because this was when they unveiled the new women's title and they got rid of the Divas division. They were no longer called Divas. They would be called Superstars. And y'all, after that triple threat was literally when a new gold standard was set over the women to where they will be treated as true athletes. However, you guys, after that, I continued to watch from 2016, which was a great year, especially when they had like the female version of the SmackDown 6 at the time. That was a great year to watch. But y'all, shortly after that, I started to notice that there was a quantity over quality approach they were taking to this product. And I gotta say, in 2019, is when I just truly tapped out. 2019 was a little bit towards the end of Vince McMahon, and it was just a bunch of nonsensical bullshit going on with the women's division. Like, it felt like they were trying to move forward, but they were still regressing. They were hiring up a lot of indie girls, which a lot of them have been great, but a lot of them, for the most part, didn't have that same aura or charisma or the ability to tell a story. See, for you guys that aren't really hip to wrestling, the indies is the independent circuit. That's like where the wrestlers are. That's where you are like wrestling your heart out for $5 and a meal, like a chicken gift card. Like, that's what you're getting on the independents, you guys. I mean, things have gotten better today, but back in the day, like, the indies was the slums. And one thing about the indies is the sheer fact that great wrestlers, great matches, but what storyline? What character development? What progression? And around that time, especially around like 2019, I noticed that they were trying to bleed out the indies and have a monopoly over the indies and hiring up all the indie talent, which, cool. These people deserve their shot and their spot. But however, you guys, the way things were ran on the indies was starting to bleed into the way the WWE was ran, and it was focusing way less on story and character development and more so on just having great matches. Now, if you're not hip to wrestling, you may think like, well, what's the point? Like, good wrestling, that's why you watch wrestling, right? Absolutely not. Don't get me wrong, there are smarks out there that love the good wrestling, that's all they care about. But with me, I need a storyline and a reason to give a fuck as to why you guys are in the ring. But fast forward to the roster today, these women have a lot of championships to fight over. Way too many championships, if you ask me. There are way too many title belts in the women's division. We're gonna get into that. But they have all these championships, they have all this TV time, allegedly, and they have more opportunities to be showcased and seen. But however, you guys, with all that being said, the women's division today is absolutely boring. Now, like I said, I haven't watched full-time a Raw or SmackDown since 2019, but I have kept up with the product via like Diva Dirt, the wrestling YouTubers like Wrestling Color Podcast, BC Amplified, Chrissy Talks Wrestling, C-Jax, Hills Advocate, you name it. Like, I watch all of the highlights, all of that, so I still keep up with the product. But for this video, I watched this past week's Raw and SmackDown, and this is being filmed on Saturday, July 25th. Y'all, I watched Raw and SmackDown, and like I said, when it comes to this product overall, it's some bullshit, y'all.
Beasley. Take another break. I am so over it. I did not like none of it.
First off, y'all, the first Raw that I watched in over like 5 or 6 years had no women's matches whatsoever. So I'm just like, the girls are back in a weird spot. So like, they're back in that weird Divas era, in the HD era, where they were getting next to no screen time, but they're still being treated as high priority talent. If so, that's the way they're marketed now, as like high priority like wrestlers, and they are. They're like wrestlers today. But the sheer fact that there was no women's wrestling match on a Raw 2 weeks before SummerSlam, absolutely unacceptable. But fast forward to last week's Friday Night SmackDown, they tried to make up for the sheer lack of women's wrestling, and they had about like, I want to say 3 or 4 women's wrestling matches. And you guys, while the show was not bad, yo, I was completely bored. Y'all, watching that Friday Night SmackDown literally proved that observation that I made on the product a few years ago, with the sheer fact that they still had that mindset of quantity over quality. Yeah, we had all these girls in different segments, different matches and all that, but nobody gives a damn. Y'all, when I tell you those girls were getting crickets when they came out, literally crickets. Y'all, I never thought I would see the day that the Queen Charlotte Flair, who comes out with her hair done, outfit done, makeup done, like everything on her is on point. She's literally giving you guys like WrestleMania level wrestling gear on a weekly basis, and she came out to crickets. Never thought I would see the day. And it's the sheer fact that there are no storylines whatsoever. They're doing this bullshit storyline of this tournament for the interim women's championship since Rhea Ripley is out on injury. You know what? Let's get into the championships. So the championships are not important. They're not important. Nobody cares about them. Nobody is running after them. The girls have no ambition. Nobody wants to challenge for the titles. Whenever a person gets the title, they barely wrestle. Like, it is a hodgepodge of a bunch of bullshit. Like, I was cool with the women having 2 belts and maybe some tag belts. Like, I was cool with them having the Raw Women's Championship and the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then we introduced the women's tag titles, which in my opinion, we don't need, because every solidified tag team either got broken up or released. But we had the tag titles, cool. But now we have the Women's World Championship, the Women's Intercontinental Championship, the Women's United States Championship, and I'm just like, quantity over quality is what they're doing. Y'all, right now the 2 main titles in the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown are the Women's World Championship, which is now being held hostage by Liv Morgan, and we have the WWE Women's Championship on SmackDown, which I believe is like the highest championship that you can have in the women's division, and that's also being held hostage by Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley, bring your ass over here, girl. So Rhea Ripley, to me, she was always cool, you know. She ended up pulling out the diva card and like pulling her shorts up her ass, and therefore she got over by the Gooners, the goon over her ass, and therefore she just skyrocketed into popularity. Never mind the fact that she reminds Triple H of China, so therefore she has Triple H sniffing all up on her ass. Rhea Ripley had a match with Jade Cargill last year, and Rhea Ripley should have never won that belt, mainly because Jade Cargill literally had her own baddies faction. She was being put on a pedestal, and she also delivered the best match of her career in the WWE with Rhea Ripley. However, you guys, Rhea Ripley got that belt. She got injured, and on the low, she was battling an eating disorder as well. And you could just tell that it clearly was starting to bleed into the airwaves, because you can tell that something is wrong with this girl and she needs some time off. But she got that time off, especially due to being injured, but therefore they didn't want to strip her of the title because she's not defending the shit. Hasn't been on TV for about, what, 2 months. But what they're doing is having a whole entire tournament to crown the interim champion, the person that is going to hold the championship in her place, so that when she comes back, she could take back the title that she never lost. Y'all, it's absolute bullshit what they're doing with her, but I'm gonna move on because I don't want this video to get too long. I can say a lot about Rhea Ripley, but girl, get it together. And then on Raw, we have Liv Morgan, who I used to love Liv Morgan, but I have completely turned on Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, girl, this whole reign has been some bullshit. You see, you know, there was a little dash of racism with Jade Cargill because people got onto her when she was holding the championship. And they were all saying like, oh, she's not wrestling, she's not defending her title, she's not doing this, she's not doing that. But here you have two white girls that are holding the titles hostage, not wrestling and not doing shit with it. But all of a sudden, there's no backlash for them, right? Liv Morgan's title reign has been absolutely awful. And I think behind the scenes that she will even tell you that this shit has been absolutely awful. She is the queen of this whole entire faction called the Judgment Day. And one thing I've noticed about Triple H is the sheer fact that in order to make the booking a little bit easier for him, he sticks everybody in a faction and everybody in a tag team so that everybody can get on television in the easiest way possible. But we're going to dig into Triple H's rat face ass in a second. You guys, the Judgment Day needs to end. It needs to end. It needs to end. It needs to end. It's absolutely fucking awful. There are two other women in that faction with Liv Morgan by the name of Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel and Roxanne, y'all need to do something, and y'all need to do something fast. Raquel to me is booked as just a big idiot. Just a big idiot with no ambition. The storyline between Raquel and Liv is right there. Raquel could easily turn on Liv Morgan, like she should have after WrestleMania, to go after that belt. But they're not going to do that because, you know, the main person that Liv was feuding with was Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer's out on injury. The girl's tired. Cool, let her rest. But the sheer fact that they can't have a feud in the meantime until Stephanie comes back really just boggles my mind, you guys. And Roxanne Perez, girl, she doesn't do shit. She doesn't do shit. She doesn't do shit. And it's sad because she had a lot of promise, especially down in developmental. She's an amazing wrestler, but all she does is just walk and trail behind Liv Morgan and Raquel. And then also on the championship tip, we had the United States Championship, which is being held by Tiffany Stratton, which again, Tiffany herself doesn't even know if she's a face or a heel, you guys. Basically, if you guys have watched wrestling, a heel is the bad guy, a face is the good guy, the underdog. She doesn't know what the fuck she is. She doesn't know what her character is. She doesn't know what's going on, and neither does the creative team.
What are you now? Are you a face? Are you just Tiff?
That's a really good question. I'm kind of just like me, and yeah. I do want to start. I feel like for the longest, for the past year, I was kind of stale. Like, I felt like, you know, there wasn't any crazy storylines after I won the title, and I kind of want to bring back some spunk. So. Yeah. We're going to be even more heelish, Tiffany.
Yeah. A little spice.
Yeah. We're going to play around with some things. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I'm not really sure why the crowd cheers me as a heelish kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Since everybody around her has no ambition and wants to step to her for her title, they ended up sticking her in that tournament for the interim women's championship title. Why is she in this tournament when she already has a title that she's not defending? And then we have Sol Ruca, who is the Melanin Queen on Raw. She is the Women's Intercontinental Champion. And you guys, I say this with love because she is amazing in the ring, but she's young and she's nervous and it shows on the screen. Y'all, they had no business putting that championship belt on Sol Ruca. And then lastly, when it comes to the tag team division, we have it being held by Fatal Influence, who is JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Lainey Reed. And in my opinion, you guys, these three girls, if nothing is done with them fast, they're going to be up out of here. Y'all, they try so hard with the tag division. They try so hard, but it always falls flat. We were finally gaining traction when Nia Jax, who is one of The Rock's cousins, and also Lash Legend, when them two were holding the title, it felt like the women's tag team division was really going somewhere. And then it all came to a halt once Paige came back and Brie Bella came back. and them two were holding the tag titles hostage. Now listen, I love Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, the Bella twins, and I love Paige. Paige is actually my Leo twin. We had the same birthday, born the same year. But y'all, I love my divas. I do. I love the fact that they can still go in the ring and keep up with this current crop of girls. But with them three coming back, y'all, it just felt like a recession indicator. And I just feel like when Paige and Brie Bella were holding the titles, I just felt like it kind of just slowed down the progression of the tag team division. They're still killing it. They're still talented. They're great, but we just got to keep it real. The shit went to shit once them two got the titles. And y'all, it's just the sheer fact that WWE's women's division has the best talent it has ever had. Ever. But nobody gives a damn. There's no reason to care. I don't care. I don't care. Nothing that is going on in this division makes me feel anything. Like, it isn't, they're not giving me anything that I can feel, you guys. Like, I can tell that us women's wrestling fans are dehydrated and starved for something that'll make us feel. Real talk, you guys, I can pinpoint the exact moment this division went back to shit. And it started with Naomi going on maternity leave. See, y'all, the thing with Naomi, I hold Naomi near and dear to my heart because she is one of the few women outside of Natalya Neidhart that transitioned from the Divas era to the Women's Revolution era to the current era, which is called the Ruthless Depression era. But Naomi always had a bumpy ride and a lot of starts and stops with her career. She was literally the epitome of her as a black woman having to work 3 to 5 times as hard to get half as far. Naomi went through the trenches of NXT up into the Divas Division, where she, in my opinion, was robbed from holding that title. She finally got her title. At one point, it got stripped from her due to an injury. Hint, hint, Rhea Ripley. And at one point, she was in a tag team with Sasha Banks, and her and Sasha Banks were disrespected immensely backstage, and she ended up walking out of the company with Sasha Banks. She went on down to TNA, paid her dues in TNA, and I will say, I didn't watch TNA at that time. I was a TNA fan back in the day, but TNA, due to Dixie Carter, went to complete shit, and I completely stopped watching. But I will say that from what I saw, when I saw the highlights, she was killing it down there. And then she came back to the WWE, especially because her husband was still there, Jimmy Uso. And she came back and she basically kind of continued where she left off. But one thing I didn't like when she came back with that same glow gimmick and them horrible, flammable, rainbow bright little pony ass wigs. Y'all, the presentation went downhill. Like, I know TNA does not pay, but girl, fuck. Like, I just wasn't feeling her hair, her outfit, and at that point, I kind of turned on Naomi for a little bit. But however, you guys, Naomi was put in a storyline with Jade and Bianca Belair, and she turned heel. And when I tell you guys, this heel turn for Naomi gave me everything that I could feel. She went from Naomi to being Mother Caution. She was gaining traction. She was getting mainstream attention. It really felt like this was her, like she arrived, like this was her moment. And not to be biased because she's a black woman, but in my opinion, she was the most entertaining thing that was going on in that women's division at the time. It really felt like she was on the rise, and this was her era. But it all came to a halt when she got inseminated by Jimmy Uso. Now, don't get me wrong, I love me some Jimmy and Trinity. They were on Total Divas, one of my favorite reality shows of all time. They were my favorite couple. I loved every scene. I loved every time they were on my screen. But Jimmy Uso's character in the WWE is very complacent with no ambition. He saw his twin brother on the rise, and now he sees his wife on the rise, and he's just sitting there with his fat fucking ass collecting check. And Jimmy's like, oh no, I gotta stop this. You both of y'all ain't gonna leave me in the dust. In walks him inseminating Naomi. Y'all, after that, everything in the women's division went downhill into hell. That's where we were just getting just these one-off exhibition matches, no storylines, no follow-through. Y'all, under Triple H, under him, because he's the head of creative, this isn't TKO, this is Triple H. Under him, there is no plan or thought process or anything in place for anybody. Nobody is being elevated under Triple H. You know what, let's go ahead and dig into Triple H's ass while I'm on his ass. See, I've caught on to his bullshit. I caught on to his bullshit a year ago. I'm glad everybody's starting to catch up. The one thing that I hate about this fan base is they will believe anything that is told to them and fed to them. Like, literally, Triple H is running the WWE like Trump runs this whole entire country. Lie, deny, gaslight, and keep on lying until people believe that that lie is the truth. And also, in the era of shrinkflation, we're going to give you less, but you're going to have to spend more to get less. You see, the WWE was once solely owned by Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon took a shit on this girl, Janelle Grant, and therefore he got caught up in litigation and therefore had to go ahead and step down from his position as the CEO and head creative officer of the WWE. Like, he had to completely give his company away, but he didn't want to give it to the doofus son-in-law and also his daughter because he knew they were going to run this shit into the ground. So therefore he sold it to TKO, which is a conglomerate that owns mainly MMA fighting and a bunch of other bullshit. But it's the sheer fact that Triple H has always been a snake. He's been a snake since the day one that he entered into the WWF as it transitioned into the WWE. He R-farmed the fuck out of Shawn Michaels and rode his clout to becoming a mainstream player, allegedly. And then he R-farmed Chyna. You know, Chyna was a megastar, and he dating her definitely boosted his star quality. And he got in good with Vince McMahon and kissed the ass of Vince McMahon so he can get closer to being Vince McMahon and literally rode Stephanie McMahon into becoming a McMahon. His plan was to always destiny swap with Vince McMahon, get in good, and run this company. But he got the keys to the kingdom, and now he's running this shit into the ground. See, Vince McMahon has always been an evil porky fucker. He was always very misogynistic. He fought and fucked his talent. He's borderline bisexual, has a BBC fetish. Vince McMahon is awful. Like I said, he took a shit. He literally took a shit on that woman. One thing about Vince McMahon, he was evil and he knew that he was evil. He played along with it, made himself the villain because it literally made the product better. Like, he knew that he was always an evil asshole and he owned it. But you have Triple H. Triple H is masking as if he's the good guy when in real talk he's worse, if not way worse than Vince McMahon, because at least Vince McMahon had a creative bone in his body and had talent and charisma. Triple H, no matter how hard he tried, he was never that guy. He was never that guy, and everybody caught on and saw his bullshit back in the day, and they did not like his ass.
Okay, I'm just gonna list some guys with the names, and you just give me, you know, your opinion on them or what you think. First thing that comes to your mind. Name game, basically. Triple H.
I didn't like Triple H. I saw him making fun of a lot of people. He was never mean to me, but for a while he made fun of a lot of people behind their backs, and I would see him do it. You know, just not a lot, but two in particular ones that he really gave a hard time to. And I'm not into people that are out to make other people's lives miserable. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
now, what stinks it up is Triple H sitting in a chair. You know, we are an action show, sitting in a chair, stationary, cutting a promo for 9 hours with no charisma. That kills a show. That makes me never. I mean, I have jokes of like, you know, oh, Triple H is on, I'll vacuum my house. You know, oh, he's still on, I'll mop the floors. Oh, he's still on, let me clean the toilets. Why even sit there and watch a show? So that made me sick.
Someone should tell whoever's in charge over there that Triple H isn't cutting it. Oh, it's him.
Oh, it's him.
Fast forward to today, everybody, for the most part, kisses his ass. The people around him kiss his ass, and also his employees, because for one, he's the one signing the paychecks, but also for two, people kiss his ass because he made the WWE backstage environment a better working environment. And by better, I mean lackadaisical. Y'all, today, from my viewpoint, these wrestlers, for the most part, are complacent. They're too comfortable. Most of their contracts now are guaranteed, and they're getting money out the ass. Most of them, some of them are even part-time, and they're getting money out the ass to not even show up and show their ass. And no matter how bad this product is, and how bad the fans call out how bad the shit is, You have him and the rest of some of these wrestlers calling out the fans and gaslighting us and telling us to shut the fuck up and just enjoy the product. Eat the slop. And we're also in an era where Triple H basically said there's not going to be anybody that's bigger than the company again. So there's not going to be another Hulk Hogan, another The Rock, another Stone Cold, another Ric Flair. It's not going to happen under Triple H. See, with the Divas division, even though there were some down periods, I was holding on because majority of the women were still bona fide stars and were great at what they did. Now, there is a huge lack of star quality in the women's division, and that keeps me from not giving a fuck about anything that's going on. And y'all, it's the sheer fact with Triple H. Triple H, back in the day, no matter how hard he tried, he was never that guy. He was never on the level of Shawn Michaels or The Rock, no matter how many entrances he had, how many angles he had, how many 12-hour promos he did, he was never that guy. And therefore, he got sick and he got pushed into an early retirement, but he was not ready to retire because he still wanted to be seen as the baddest bitch. And therefore, you have a lot of people that need to be pushed, that have all the talent and charisma to be pushed and be a megastar, but he's not going to push them because therefore he doesn't want to create another bad bitch. And he doesn't want anybody to be seen as a bad bitch outside of him. Triple H's ego is completely out of control. And it's out of control because he wants to be a bad bitch. Wide hips, big titties, flat ass, and at one point he even had long blonde hair like a bad bitch. But the real thing is, Triple H, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. Y'all, I was truly disgusted when Obafemi and Brock Lesnar were having their feud on the build up to WrestleMania, and he found a way to insert his ass on television in that feud. The hottest feud going in the whole entire company. He found a way to skirt his wide, narrow ass into that angle. And y'all, don't even get me started to when he got this job. He was barely even showing up to the job. He was barely showing up, letting ChatGPT write out the scripts. He was on podcasts when he should have been at television. And my thing is, like, how are you barely at the show, but there's no storylines to be told? There is nothing going on. All he does is just throw shit at the wall and try to see what pops and what sticks. His walls are so shitty that he can't even see that there is nothing going on that he is producing. And like I said, you guys, it really grinds my gears that today's wrestling fans blame all the bullshit on TKO, but nobody wants to blame Triple H, who is the head of creative. But overall, y'all, I'm gonna cut this video short because it may get a little long. You guys, this product sucks. It fucking sucks, and I absolutely hate it, and it's damn near on the verge of getting canceled. Hell, I don't even know how SmackDown's still on the air, you guys. SmackDown is dead in the fucking water. But overall, y'all, will this product ever get better? Absolutely not. One thing that they do, they go overseas because overseas makes it look like the product is better than what it is, because they barely go overseas, so the people just yant and chant and sing the whole entire time to a point where it's fucking annoying. But they're gonna do everything that they can to mask the fact that this product is absolute nonsensical bullshit. And from my viewpoint, as long as you wrestling fans continue to show up to the shows and yant, chant, and yeet and skeet all over the place, this product is not gonna get any better. But yeah, you guys, that's how I feel about today's women's division. How do y'all feel about the WWE's women's division and the product overall? You guys, like I said earlier, it is just tough seeing something that I was so passionate about die in real time. And I know I'm rambling, but I gotta say this before I go. If the WWE and Triple H keep on with this trajectory, they keep on with this bullshit, I give it 2 years tops before this whole entire company is dead in the water. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this video. I know I was a little all over the place, but y'all, I just have a lot to say, and it's been bottled up. I just had to get this off my chest. But let me know what you guys think about WWE's women's division and the current state of the company as a whole. Those are my views. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to come back at you guys with some more content.